I'm not sure if a bored content marketer has got there yet, but if there's a list of the best L&D movies out there, I'd put Christopher Nolan's Inception right up near the top. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's a story about a thief who steals other people's secrets by going inside their dreams. Seriously, no, that's the plot of it. And the main character is given the task of planting an idea into the mind of a CEO. This, of course, is known as Inception. There's this great moment in the movie when they're debating the feasibility of this all, and one of the characters looks at the other and says, "If you're going to perform Inception, you need imagination. You need the simplest version of the idea, the one that will grow naturally in the subject's mind." I love that line. And it's one of the reasons why Inception is truly an all-time great L&D movie. Because it tackles something that, well, we all struggle with. How do I facilitate change in someone who is resistant to it? How do I convince someone of an idea that may not even be on their radar? Of course, there's more convincing to do than just with our learners, isn't there? And in the spirit of Inception, let's actually take it one layer down where things are even more unstable. How do we overcome resistance with our own team? I mean, there's you. Look at you. You're great. You've got a strong, progressive point of view. You're an organizational champion. You get it. But what happens when those around you don't? Because let's face it, you can't do this on your own. So how do we navigate that? What I love about Inception is what I firmly believe in when it comes to working with our learners, our teams, and our most critical stakeholders. And it's that when you buy into the essence of an idea, its simplest form, you'll buy into the idea as a whole. Real change, whether it is buying into the message of a training or fundamentally changing one's attitudes towards learning. Real change is tough. But this is our job. We are always communicating the big idea. So let's start using our imagination. Maybe it's time for a little Inception. Hi, I'm Josh. I'm an enterprise digital learning leader spending over a decade helping some of the world's biggest organizations transform how they view digital learning. I'm obsessed with the idea of modern learning and how we can use digital, the content, the technology, the design, to truly help people, organizations, and digital learning leaders like you be at their best. Welcome to Digital Learning Done Right. All right, well, let's dive in. Bad meetings, they happen all the time. And I think it especially gets to us when it's that one we've been prepping for ages, when we're pitching this bold, new, ambitious vision, only to get shot down about 5 minutes in. And when we're walking out of that room and we're trying to think about what our next step is, I always think to myself, Inception? Of course, I'm not trying to go inside someone's dream in order to manipulate them. Only someone as charming as Leo DiCaprio could ever do that. But getting shot down in such a glorious fashion as well, it's great feedback. Feedback that you simply haven't worked hard enough to get buy-in on the bigger idea. Because when you don't, it's a journey of 1,000 paper cuts before you finally arrive at some watered-down version of what you were hoping to build. That's the great charm of our wonderful L&D machine. It's a war of attrition. We have great ideas, but by the time we brought them across the finish line, they've turned into itty-bitty resentful scorn packages. So how do we win people over? Well, like our learners, it starts with empathy. And actually, we need a lot of empathy with our stakeholders because we work so closely with them. And let's be fair, it's not like that one senior stakeholder hates your guts or cares that much about completion. Maybe they feel the pressure of showing something come budget season. Or maybe they don't feel confident enough with where today's edtech is going and they prefer to stick to their comfort zone and industry best practices. In the movie, the only way this key moment of change was ever going to work was that if the CEO believed that this was their idea the whole time. Now, of course, we don't need to go that far, but it's pretty similar to those lines. You are speaking to their concept rather than trying to convince them of yours. It's not about your idea or their idea. It's about understanding what people care about and finding common ground between that. Reduce the objection to its essence. Don't make the conversation about SCORM versions. Make it about what do we care about when it comes to impact. And don't get tactical, because tactical is where you'll often lose. This is especially true when we're having design conversations with people who don't feel comfortable with the language of design or tackling creative concepts. Find out what matters to them and keep the focus of the conversation on what they care about. Truly changing is really, really tough. And there's a lot of default thinking in L&D. Everyone's got a strong, typically anecdotal point of view on what learning is, and it's quite a rigid belief. Now there's you, once again, you're great, but there's you who walks into that meeting with all your, how can we be more user-driven? How do we involve our learners more in our design? How can we be more impact-focused? Those are some big questions there, hotshot. And you're being really provocative in these moments. You need to first get them to buy into the big idea before you can show up with all your fancy questions. How we communicate ideas about learning is just as important as the learning itself. And we need to speak directly to these big ideas to have any chance of success. This is the burden of a progressive L&D leader. Welcome to the club. But let's face it, when it comes to winning over hearts and minds, sometimes you just need to know how to play the game. It's not fair, but it's practical. So here's 3 roles I suggest you can take on as you navigate your own organization. The first is the rebel. Sometimes you realize you're doing great work, you're a strong performer in your organization, but that organization you're working for is the Death Star. And a rebellion? Well, a rebellion needs to rebel. The rebel is acutely aware of what's happening in their organization. They know the internal politics, and they're going to fight their way through. Sometimes it happens without asking for permission, and sometimes it's about using whatever's in their control to sneak in the vegetables. Being the rebel is a bold strategy. Depending on who you are and how your organization is set up, this is either filled to be phenomenal or folly. With the rebel, showing is believing, and they're quietly going to go about their way to show the organization what good looks like, whether the organization asks for it or not. Then there's the diplomat. The diplomat knows you can't go very far with their rebellious nature, and so you're constantly playing the long game and finding any way you can to get a win, no matter how small that win is. They are going at things more democratically, more transparency, more visibility, more alignment. The diplomat knows when to concede and when to push back. And they strongly believe in the 90-10 view. That is, you're not going to get 100% of what you want, but if you can get 10% of it in everything that goes out the door, you can really start to enact change in a serious way. For the diplomat, inception is slow and steady but successful. Concession is how you make progress. The diplomat will succeed, and they won't burn any bridges along the way either. And finally, there's the pragmatist. Sometimes, with zero logic and rationale, things have been firmly established and put in front of you. You're working with X LMS and Y authoring tool, and you're stuck with this situation, and in that situation, the pragmatist reverse engineers from there. Their focus is neither rebellion nor diplomacy, but simply how to take the status quo and put it in a position to succeed. The pragmatist doesn't care for politics. They just put their head down and get to work. They know the best way to get progress is to focus within your confines and make the best possible world within it. With the pragmatist, their work speaks for themselves. So there you have it. 3 distinct ways that you can maybe navigate your own organization. Are you going to be the rebel, the diplomat, the pragmatist? For me, well, If you've learned anything about me over the last little while, you know exactly which one I'm gravitating towards. Choose the role that suits you best, but just know that the worst choice of all is to do nothing, to go along with things, to not push and provoke, because the most dangerous attitude that persists in L&D is complacency. This whole series has been about how we can move the needle further. How do we push the agenda? This is really about culture shift, mindset shift, and not everyone is ready for it. Work on developing a strong, progressive point of view on learning, and work to get your team on board with it. This is the most important thing you can do today. Have as much empathy for your stakeholders as you do your learners. Get to the essence of the ideas, the objections, and speak to where your stakeholders are and what matters to them. Choose your role, whether it's the rebel, the diplomat, the pragmatist, and play it wisely and, where needed, patiently. It's more than just becoming an organizational champion. You're already there, but you know you can't go at it alone. Assemble the resistance, lead the rebellion, create the transformation, because we need all the help we can get to have a chance at creating the experiences and environments that we're all really proud of. This is the most important thing to do, and the most important to get right. You've got that vision burning inside you. Now let it grow and take over your entire organization. You're waiting for a train, and that train is coming. Who are you bringing on board? Why not everyone? That's all for today, and that's a wrap for Series 1 of Digital Learning Done Right. What'd you think? If you enjoyed this, tell a friend, share the entire series with a colleague, and come find me on LinkedIn if you're still looking to fight me, or simply to keep the conversation going. Looking for more? Go to digitallearningdoneright.com. Go there right now, and drop us an idea in our suggestion box. Or if you're looking to work together, you'll find information there as well. Next time, we'll talk about, well, let's keep that a secret for now.